Okay, good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Erace December 18th, 2021. And by the way, this is our last meeting for the year of 2021. We will see everyone in 2022. So I hope everybody has a great holiday, and I hope everyone is doing better than I am as far as preparations for the holiday next week, which is part of my stress. I have like absolute, I got a wreath on the door, yay. That's about as far as I've gotten. And I have the things that I had to mail. Now I was on top of that because grandson is involved. You know, we're gonna take care of grandson, right? So, but anyway, let's get started. Erace is the slogan of the group Erace, which was formed in the summer of 1993. We seek ways through person-to-person communication to show we are committed to treating fellow human beings of all colors with love and respect. Join us. Okay. A little bit of housekeeping. Depending on what kind of device you're using, there at the bottom, there are some icons. One is a mute icon, so we ask everyone to mute themselves unless they're speaking. There is also a stop video that looks like a camera. There is a participants icon, which shows how many people are in the meeting, and in there you can change your screen name if you wish. Also, there is a chat box where you can post information and comments. And also in the participant screen, there is a raise hand feature that you can use. Okay, so we did that. You raise one finger to be on the list and move it around. I'll be scanning, but make yourself animated so that I kind of catch you. We speak in order of the list. Please keep your comments to 2 minutes. Be respectful, don't interrupt the speaker. You can ask a clarifying question by raising 2 fingers. Okay, a clarifying question is, could you further explain, or didn't understand what you meant by? If you want to make a statement about what the speaker said, raise your finger and get on the list. 15 minutes before the end, we will do a final wrap up where everyone has an opportunity to give their final thoughts. Please keep your comments to a minute, and it's okay to pass if you don't have a final comment. Okay, so let's go around and introduce ourselves. And I will start with, as I see people on my screen, Phyllis.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Phyllis. I've been coming to Erace since 2008 when I moved to New Orleans. I am on call today, so I may have to mute my screen and go away for a little bit. And Marion texted me to say she regretfully cannot attend because there's a family medical emergency, and she wishes everybody happy holidays and happy new year.
Okay, thank you, Phyllis. Louise.
Hi, I'm Louise. Been coming to these meetings a couple of decades, firstly in New Orleans and now in Austin since Katrina.
Okay.
This is a great, I'm glad you picked this topic. This is good.
Okay, thank you. Lynn. Unmute.
You can tell I missed a couple of meetings. I forgot about muting. I'm sorry, I had a dinner party and my son was helping me paint stairs another Saturday, but I'm glad to be back. I'm Lynn, retired, live in New Orleans, and I'm happy to see all my friends on Erace again. We're doing what the article suggests.
Yes, absolutely, we are. I thought about that. Thank you, Jean.
Yes, I'm Jean Walker from Silver Spring, Maryland, and I've been coming to Erace New Orleans for several months. I somehow cannot keep track, but I'm happy to be here, and it's a fantastic article. Thank you.
Thank you. Nora?
Hi, I'm Nora. I'm in Austin. Wish I could say I'd been coming for decades, but it's only been maybe 6 months or so. And I really enjoy the meeting.
Thank you. Beatrice?
Hi, good morning. I'm Beatrice in East Point, Georgia. Been coming to Erace since 93, 94 when I lived in New Orleans and co-founded Erace Atlanta with my late husband, Larry. Glad to see everybody making gumbo. So if I jump up, y'all know I'm going to stir my pot.
Okay, thank you. Pedro?
Hey, good morning. Happy holidays. Glad to be here and look forward to our discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Rebecca?
Good morning. I'm very happy to be here and wish everybody happy holiday time. And I've been coming for, I think it's more than a year now, might be going on to 2 years. And I live in Boston, Massachusetts, so I'm a long way away. And I'm really proud to be a member of this group. I think it's very, very good compared to other groups I've tried and others I've heard of. It seems to me to be the right approach to the issue of racism. So thank you for that. And I'm happy to be here.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Cheryl?
Hi, everybody. It's really great to see all your faces. I have a lot of trouble. I'm from New Orleans. I've been coming for a while and just joined back in the last year and find this to be wonderful. And this article really, I think it's like we're the proof of the pudding of how good, and it'll be fun to hear how everybody else feels about that. Hope more people show up to join us. And I'll just stop right there. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Marla?
Hey, good morning. My name's Marla. I'm in the New Orleans area as well. And I've been coming to Erace, I think it's been about a year, but I also have pandemic timeline problems and can't really remember when the order of things is. So anyway, very grateful to be here. And I'm continuing to try to spread the word about Erace and let people know you don't have to be in New Orleans area to participate. So excited about this discussion in particular.
Okay, thank you. Bill? You're muted, Bill.
I
There
still
you
have
go.
to learn the Zoom protocols, but I've been coming to Erace for 4 or 5 years, and it helps to address the issues in the article today, among other things, but that certainly is a part of it, a large part of it. And I put something in the chat about the Legacy Project, both the national organization and the New Orleans thing. And I will save this for the announcements, but I left out a very important part of my update, which I will say at the end.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Cindy?
I was stapling my pages together. Oops.
It's okay.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're doing well with this strange winter warmth. I guess I've been coming again between 3 and 4 years, though I heard about it way back when it first started, and I just never could seem to get there on a Saturday morning when I was teaching full time. So I'm pleased to have the time now. And you all are a wonderful set of people to work with or to listen to. it's, I'm interested in this debate today or this discussion today because I worked in the public school system where contact across races is absolutely built in. You can't be in the public school system without crossing races. And if you're lucky to have the Vietnamese connection or Hispanic connection, that's even broader, which I find very important. So I'm pleased to see you. Good morning.
Thank you. Michelle.
Everyone, I'm Michelle, and I've been coming to Erace since the summer of 2020, and I'm in Austin and was introduced by Louise. And I'm looking forward to the discussion as well. This is an interesting article, kind of timely for me as well, because I'd like some input from everybody here about another group that I'm involved with as far as inclusivity and including or encouraging participation beyond one's race, basically. So interesting.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you. Marva.
Good morning. Gris sent me a text that she's trying to get in. I don't know what the holdup is. I've been coming since post Katrina, and I look forward to this discussion. I think it's going to be a talker. This article, I've experienced everything. Good seeing you all.
Okay, thank you. And I'm Nancy. I've been coming to Erace since June of 2007. The reason that I brought this article is a couple of reasons. We were here having a discussion. I had not heard the term racial anxiety before. I had never heard it. But when it was introduced to me, one of the first things that I thought of was I had attended an Erace meeting at Tulane with Bill Connect, who is our former president, and a group of Tulane social work students. And one of the white students said that she felt apprehension or when she would go into a neighborhood where she didn't see any other white people, and I said, popped up and said, well, I feel the same way when I go into a neighborhood and I don't see any Black people. So I said, I think in the discussion that we were having here at home, I said, I think that'd be a good topic for Erace. And as I started reading up on it, racial anxiety, this article is just really a small part of a broader subject of racial anxiety, because racial anxiety also gets into the mental health of people. There's a whole other area where they talk about how the constant bombardment of microaggression, racism, and on a daily, continuous basis, may not be daily, but on a continuous basis, can also affect your mental health. So I said, well, I looked at several different ones and was trying to figure out which way to go, and I settled on this one. So that's how I came to bring this article today. Okay, so the list is open. Let's get started. Michelle. Unmute.
Bill's on the once.
And Bill.
Yeah.
Okay. And Lynn.
I
Okay.
was
And
waiting for
Cindy.
people to pop up.
Okay. Bill,
Before I
Lynn, and
started.
Cindy. Okay.
Rebecca.
And Rebecca. Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
That's all.
okay, good.
Yes.
Excuse me.
So I just wanted to say that yes, the article certainly brought out. I had heard of racial anxiety actually. I don't know where, but it was a term I was somewhat familiar with, and obviously I've had discussions here and there, kind of with that, kind of talking about that kind of feeling that we all have when we are within groups of people that are of mixed race and obviously not of our own backgrounds as well. There's all that anxiety that comes to the fore, and I think it's easy for somebody who's actually not familiar with the term to not realize the reality of the situation is that we've all been, raised within a certain sphere of understanding of each other. And it basically, as white people, it becomes, and I'm sure, as well as other races who are kind of insulated in their own group of people that they grow up with. So being white and being around white people all the time, it just becomes that your fallback, and it becomes what you're comfortable with, and you don't have practice doing it. So it becomes what they, what's been termed the water we swim in or the air we breathe. And so it becomes hard for us to understand how to live amongst other people or talk amongst other people that are from different places that we are, because we're so used to the way we have done things all the time. And so it just becomes natural to us and becomes unnatural for us to basically, relate to people from different perspectives that we're unfamiliar with. So it really, the article resonated with me in that regard, because it just reminds me, that when I'm out and about and mixing with people of different races or different backgrounds, to step back and actually purposefully think to myself, how I talk to certain people, or how I react around certain people, and don't let my biases that I've built up because of the air that I've been breathing my whole life, or the water I've been swimming with, affect how I see those people and predispose me to think of certain things of those people. So I'm saying it's a calculated thing for me as a white person to have to mentally, think about where I am and who I'm talking to before, and not let my biases get in the way. So kind of a roundabout way of saying what I wanted to say, but that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you. Next we have Bill. Unmute.
Yes, I saw that. I am far from perfect and have
Beatrice.
a lot to learn about race, but I was fortunate as a kid growing up in New Orleans that my parents had strong connections to African Americans. And my mother was naturally friendly and outgoing. She was the same with everybody. But my father was socially awkward, but he was a role model, because I've said this before to the group. I would watch him interact with African Americans, and there were sort of nonverbal cues. He would follow this checklist right here. He would look them in the eye, use a friendly tone, and indicate and reach out his hand to shake hands and indicate that he was going to treat them as equals. And the African Americans responded in the same way with friendship. They it appeared to me as a kid, let their guard down a little bit, and there was a friendly interaction. And so that was my role model going forward. And a lot of white friends who didn't have the same interactions with people of color, I could see they were more awkward. My father also was he was a Tulane, and he was responsible for English as a second language for Latin American students. So we were exposed to a lot of people from Latin America at the same time. Of course, well, this was the 50s. So it was Latin Americans were more accepted, especially if they were from Latin America, much more accepted in white society than African Americans. But there were still issues there too. Anyway, I have more to say, but I'll get
Get
off.
back on the list.
Oh, I
Okay.
wanted to say one thing. I'm sorry. I never want to be the first. And this sort of reminds me of when we were doing the airlines and they were checking people, the first one would always be pulled aside and frisked. So no one wanted to be first. And as soon as the first one was pulled aside and frisked, everybody rushed up so they could get through before the next person was selected. Sorry for that diversion.
All right, thank you. We have Lynn, Cindy, Rebecca, and Beatrice. Anyone else like to be on the list? Phyllis. Okay, Lynn,
Cheryl has 2 fingers up.
and you want to be on the list or you want to ask a clarifying question, Cheryl?
Clarifying question real quick.
Okay,
Is Bill, where were you when you were getting frisked? I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
there you go. Unmute.
TSA after 9/11, when they had really strict searching at the gate, not at the point of arrival. So that was it.
Okay. Lynn,
I put a quotation in the chat because the article reminded me of this very famous quotation of Dr. Martin Luther King. I am convinced that men hate each other because they fear each other. They fear each other because they don't know each other, and they don't know each other because they don't communicate with each other, probably with each other, because they are separated from each other. And that was really true when I was growing up in Houston. I had absolutely no opportunity to meet any Black people. Only once did it happen that I was with a group of Black people, and it was a wonderful event. But my school was segregated. My university, Rice University, was founded on the principle that it would be a free university for white children, and no African Americans were ever admitted until they broke the will the year that I went to school, but still there was lag time and we had no Black students, and my neighborhood was segregated. So when I came to New Orleans, it was just a wonderful awakening and a whole new group of people to be friends with and learn from. And I had some racial anxiety because it was a new experience, and I put my foot in my mouth many, many times, but people have been kind and helped me in my learning process. And a point in the article that I thought was good was that with people gather together on a level of equality, not if you're relating only to service people, but your co-workers, the people you go out to lunch with, the people in your clubs, the people in your church. That makes a big difference to the equality, and just see the common humanity and all the things you have in common. So I'm very glad that segregation has.
Cheryl.
Oh, I'm sorry. Am I pet? My time is
You're
past.
past your time. You want to get back on the list?
No, thank you.
No? Okay. All right. We have Cindy, Rebecca, Beatrice, excuse me, Phyllis, and Cheryl. Anyone else? Marla. Okay, Cindy.
Hello again. I certainly agree with what's been said. Contact is the biggest issue. When I was, I've lived in the South almost all my life. The difference from when I was little, which is a long time ago, with no neighborhood friends, no integration in the neighborhoods at all. The schools were all white through till I got to college. But My dad was an Episcopal minister and was involved with several different churches, black and white, rural, and that's a whole nother world. Small Southern churches, interesting. We don't have a lot of contact unless we're in sort of an unusual situation. Now it's begun to change, thank goodness. If you don't have any contact with people that are different from you, then you don't know that they're just regular people. But there's so much media attention and stereotyping that how do we get to know each other if we never have any contact? So I'm grateful for working in the public schools. You couldn't keep to your own kind.
Louise?
It's a real dilemma how to promote it. I don't think many people have as much cross-racial contact as I did. And I think they're inhibited in learning to accept. And it's kind of sad, but I do think that's kind of a basic thing of, oh, that's something I don't know about, so I'll stick here. It's too bad, but I'm afraid I think it's built in. So hopefully we can learn to accept.
Thank you, Cindy. We have Rebecca, Beatrice, Phyllis, Cheryl, Marla, and Louise. Okay, Rebecca.
Okay, good morning again. So I have traveled in Africa, and certainly, you know, I have
No,
been
has her finger up.
the only, oh, is there a question?
Who had their finger up? I'm sorry.
Jean.
Jean and Michelle. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I felt very welcome. I don't know if I would feel welcome now because the situation in Africa is more hostile, but the time that I traveled, I did feel very welcome, both among Africans and among Muslims of color. But the one time that in Boston, where I live, that I was with a group, my husband started a childcare center that encouraged children to visit various places where they might take an interest and develop a career. It was really a very good program. And I went to a Christmas party that they held, and they were all wearing Muslim outfits, even the little children. They were adorable, actually. And I felt comfortable there. It was different, but I certainly socially felt comfortable. And but these were sort of fleeting moments. I think it's different, and I'll raise my hand again because I don't think I have time. I think when you actually develop a relationship that's more than a fleeting one, that there is racial anxiety. So that was just my comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Next we have Beatrice and Bill.
Thank you for the article. I have
And
a
Nora.
couple of thoughts that are kind of discordant, disjunctive, but I had an experience very recently. Maybe 3 or 4 months ago, I was invited to a surprise birthday celebration for a woman who, she and her husband are members of our Erace group. So I know them. They're both European American, both white. And when I got there was not another Black person in that room. And as old as I am, I felt uncomfortable, even though I knew the person for whom the party was given. It's hard to describe the discomfort that I felt, which is unfortunate. You know, it's unfortunate because I know the person, but the room and as welcoming as I'm sure people were being, and there was another couple that I had related to before when we did immigration. But anyway, it's just very interesting. But I think the value of these interracial experiences is that we don't other people, that we don't, if you know someone of another race, and you're less likely to think that if a person of that race does something awful, you can always say, well, no, because I know Bill. And so everybody in that race didn't like that. I mean, it keeps us from stereotyping people as well as developing a level of comfort. when I worked in Montgomery County Public Schools in Maryland, I was a teacher specialist. And so often, I was a social studies teacher specialist. And so often I was in situations where, again, I would be the only African American. And I used to push myself beyond comfort level to speak, to take responsibility for leadership, like directing workshops and training teachers, because I felt I had to. I felt that it was an important thing, but that's the level of anxiety too, feeling that you represent the entire race wherever you go. But I think that the idea of interracial conversations, experiences, I'll get back later.
Okay, I have two clarifying questions, one from Louise and one from Phyllis. Louise?
So at the party, Beatrice, you say you felt uncomfortable. In what ways did that show itself? Like, were you not being yourself? Were you like being false and like, ha ha ha, when you know what I mean? Like,
right, great question. The first thing is, I didn't go investigate the food, which is, I'm from New Orleans, baby. I got to see what they're serving. But I didn't go in the area where that was. I didn't want to move around. And I cannot tell you that the few people that I did know, as I said, these other two people, at some point, they were talking about stuff that, and at some point, really quickly, everybody at the table I was sitting at got up except me. And I said, okay, baby, it's time for you to go home. But yeah, it was kind of like not moving, wanting to move around. That was kind of how it was.
but they were hostile towards you, obviously, were they?
No, indeed. No, indeed.
Okay.
All right, Phyllis?
So Beatrice and maybe Nancy, in your wrap up, you could address this too, since you kind of brought it up in the beginning. What do you think one or more white people could have done in that situation to make you feel more comfortable and welcome?
I just think hanging with me. You know what I mean? I just felt that I was by myself. And initially, this couple that I keep referring to, not the people for whom the party, I'm sorry I'm going on, not the people for whom the party was given a woman, but another couple that I used to work with, as I said, in immigration work. Okay. At first, they were glad to see me. They were expressing sympathy about Larry. We hang for a little while, but then, it was me. And I think that might have been something. But, I know they didn't feel that I would feel uncomfortable. It didn't dawn upon them that I was uncomfortable.
Yes. Cheryl, did you have a clarifying question too? Or did you want to get on the list?
I think most of it got cleared up. It's just that wondering.
Rebecca. Yes?
I want to get on the list.
You want to get on the list, but Cheryl, was your question answered?
I feel so. I feel like what I heard from Beatrice is, I feel that Beatrice, you're a person that will take yourself to all kinds of people and know how to relate to people, and that there was an oversight in the guests that they were not people that were versed in diversity or being with lots of different kinds of people, and they didn't greet you well enough. But I think you made that.
All right. And Cindy wants to get on the list. So what we have is Phyllis, Cheryl, Marla, Louise, Jean, Michelle, Bill, Nora, Rebecca, and Cindy. Okay, Phyllis.
So I have so much I want to say, but I'm in another group. There's 5 of us in this group, and it's like an anti-racist book group. And several meetings ago, one of the members, who's a white woman who lives in Denver, asked the others of us who live in, like, here, obviously, LA, somewhere in Maine, and somewhere in Minnesota, asked us, where do you go to meet or hang out with people of color? And I was like, outside, to work, to the grocery store, to, friends that I hang out with, to this. And it struck me that there are places where that's harder for white people to sort of get that experience, and that to be exposed to being with other people and seeing them as equals. I, as a child, was very into watching this travel show that I wish I could see it again, because my memory of it and my feelings about it was that it really opened my mind to the diversity in the world among people. It wasn't like a European travel show. I specifically remember like Laos as being one of the places. And I felt like that made me curious about how other people live and what they think about things. And then as a teenager, I met a group of people who were like international students who were in my hometown for whatever reason. And it probably was the first time I really met people from somewhere else. And I was really excited to talk to them. I don't remember now if there was a really racially diverse group, but I remember being very excited to meet people from outside of Akron, Ohio, and expand my mind a little bit. So I just wish that for everybody, that they would find more comfort in that and not be so anxious or afraid and or concerned. Just, be yourself and know you got a lot to learn.
Thank you. Cheryl?
Cindy has a clarifying question.
Cindy, you have a clarifying? Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
You got to unmute.
I wondered, Phyllis, if you think, what's the big block? I'm thinking of groups I've been in when people are from different backgrounds. Some people are easy to go up and introduce themselves and start talking, but most people hang back. Why do you think this is?
Well, I think some people are legitimately introverts and some
Right.
people are legitimately extroverts. I don't necessarily think extroverts are going to be the ones to be the most outgoing in terms of talking to people who might be on the outside of a group. I actually was at a Thanksgiving potluck just across the street, and it was the whitest group I've been in a long time. And one older African-American man came in, and I was like, okay, I'm your boo. I'm going to talk to you. Because he didn't really know many people there, and I only knew a few people there. And I just think it's a matter of, like, when you go to an event, look around, see who's sitting by themselves, see who might look uncomfortable. Don't make your comfort the most important thing.
Right.
It's
right.
hard.
It is hard.
Yeah. Okay, moving on, we have Cheryl, Mara, Louise, Jean, Michelle, Bill, Nora, Rebecca, and Cindy. Anyone else? Okay, Cheryl.
Well, I really appreciate everybody in this conversation. It's really good to hear. Lynn really had some great things to say. It's so interesting because I know there's one other person here that mentioned they're going to talk about a group that they're in. And I just had an experience of weeks and weeks of being with a group of people out of the Portland, Seattle area that have to do with more of my faith path. And it was startling. We did Rachel Ricketts' book, Do Better. And it's about approaching yourself as a white person and white supremacy. And she just gets out there and really talks openly about her life, this person. And first of all, it was startling to hear because people were very honest, which was great, but they are just completely lost out there as far as how to integrate or anything. And they were quite shocked when I said, well, the reason it's like that for you out there is because it's been set up that way. It was done on purpose that they would live in all white communities. But I know that I myself am a shy person, and I have racial anxiety. I don't want to say something really shitty and stupid to people. So when I go someplace, I think you all know I was in a relationship. The family was not happy that I was in that relationship as a white person in a Black family here. I would take a mirror before I went places and stare in it and do breathing exercises. And then look into my eyes and then relax and see that I would see God in everyone, no matter how I was treated at the party, because it was very popular to sit me over in a corner and leave me alone for the night. But, I know that that was something I should have done because, first of all, as part of that family, and second of all, that happens to other people a lot. And so why I should think I'm so special and not have it happen to me. But Lynn said some things that were so important to me about how until we have equality, that's that thing in that article. It's not just being in mixed groups, but having equality in all the different things we do. The bank, the schools, the churches, shopping, housing, everything that we do. And I have a firm belief that all children before the age of 10 should experience multiracial equal times, like by going to camps together, where they're together.
Cheryl, your time is up. You want to get back on the list? Okay, thank you. We have Marla and Louise, Jean, Michelle, Bill, Nora, Rebecca, Cindy, and Phyllis. Okay, Marla.
Yes. Wow, this is an awesome discussion. I just wanted to make one point that even with exposure to different races, that doesn't automatically decrease one's racial anxiety. And just reflecting on my own experience, I grew up in Wichita, Kansas. I went to a very large public high school that was very diverse, large Vietnamese population, many other people of color, white people, and so on and so forth. And while I still had that exposure, there was never really a lot of integration in that. My daughter's school is very, very different. She has many friends who are Black, a couple who are Muslim, Pakistani, etc. And now is very concerned about going on to college and making sure she has that level of diversity when she's in college, and how she can seek that out. So I feel like she's worlds ahead of where I was at her age in having that comfort with diversity. I also wanted to say racial anxiety, where it shows up, is interesting. So my dad is a retired professor of political science, and back in the 60s, he actually participated in some sit-ins and was pretty involved in civil rights and that sort of thing. But we had Black neighbors when I was growing up, and that was a completely different thing for my dad. And I remember thinking as a kid, how can he have anxiety about having Black neighbors? He was concerned about the property value, but still participate in sit-ins. I mean, it didn't make sense. And I guess as a kid, I didn't feel like I could directly question him about that. And I still haven't to this day, and he's 87. I don't know that I ever will, but it's just something to ponder upon, like how racial anxiety can show up in a different space, even though you behaved a different way in another space.
Okay, thank you, Marla. Very good point. Louise.
Yeah, Marla, that's really interesting about your dad, and you should ask him. I think that's really interesting where his mind was at to conflicting, anywho, I think that was interesting. Yes, this is a very interesting conversation. There is so much. I've written a few things down, but so much to talk about. And that Dr. King quote, I think, says it all, until we're separated, right? And that's where it ends. Yes, until we're not separated, we won't be able to get to know each other and drop the fear that we all have, because that's what pretty much hate is. Hate is fear of the unknown. So I was raised in England, in London, England, and it is very diverse. So it was a very different racial feeling coming over here to the US, especially to the South. I had a lot to learn, and have still been learning about it. And as far as racial anxiety, I do get it at school, working in a public school here. If I ever have to redirect a Black child, it's in my brain thinking, oh God, they're going to think I'm doing it just because they're Black. And it's like, no, they're being a pissant or whatever it was, why I'm redirecting them. But that's definitely in my mind, as I do know for fact that they're targeted by certain teachers, and that, it's terrible racial discrimination going on in public schools in the classroom. So I'm ultra aware of it myself as an educator. And I think something that's said in the article, just to finish, which was very simple, it says something about smiling. You know, don't be hesitant to smile at each other or someone that you're, you know, not normally around. And I think that's kind of a very simplistic, but also a very, I think it's kind of like that thing last week when I said you should say Salaam Alaikum to Muslims. It's kind of, yeah, smile, you know, just let people know that you don't mean any ill intent to them.
Okay, thank you.
I want to ask a question.
I have Greer.
Glenn.
Glenn, did you want to be on the list?
I want to ask a question.
Oh, have a clarifying. Okay, go ahead. Greer, I have you on the list.
So Louise, you don't find that there was racism in England?
I didn't say that. Of course, there's racism in England and in London, but way less. And especially where I was growing up in my public school, very mixed race, very, you know, it's not the same. I think that's what I said. It's certainly not the same kind of racism and so deep and omnipresent as it is here in the States, for sure. We're not all walking around hand in hand singing, you know, kumbaya or whatever. But yeah, does that answer you?
That's pretty good.
Okay. All right, moving on. We've got Jean, Michelle, Bill, Nora, Rebecca, Cindy, Phyllis, and Greer. Okay, Jean.
Well, my experiences have all been a little bit different. I was a probation officer here in the District of Columbia. And so I went into Black communities frequently. My coworkers were primarily Black. My supervisors were Black. We had no issues there. And one person from there, still a longtime friend. I went to Howard University School of Law. I'm a graduate of the law school. And then after I finished law, I worked at Howard University at a legal services program. And the funny thing is the professor that used to harass me the most when I was in law school became my employer and one of my best friends. Really helped me out a lot. So I agree with Dr. Martin Luther King's, statement there. My son is, his father is Black, and we have a very mixed community. Not that we live in on our street. We have some diversity, but very little. I keep wishing for more. And I intend to get involved in the housing issue, getting affordable housing in the effort to get more diversity in our local community here. So thank you. And thank you. I really appreciated everybody's comments. But once you start looking at people as individuals, it's just so much easier to live a full life. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. Appreciate it. Okay, Michelle.
Yeah, interesting comment, Jean, too. I was interested to find out you went to Howard University. That's one of those things that I've often lately wondered about, like for the white people out there who have the courage to seek out those opportunities to be in mixed and a minority within a majority situation like a historically Black college or university. So certainly I think that would provide a lot of insight and education to the white population for those that are willing to take that great leap to immerse themselves in that. But anyway, this article just raised a lot more questions for me as a white person. And I think, as I said at the beginning of my first comment, I'm part of another group that is all about finding friendship and among women over 50 here in Austin. And so part of that is instituting or organizing events for people to get together. And a question that comes to mind for me is how many people in this group, especially the white people here, actually have true friends of color, especially Black friends, because I think that's the real key here. It's great to be able to interact out in public with people on a daily basis of the opposite race, but to actually have true friends that you would have over and have dinner with. And I know in these pandemic times that becomes increasingly more difficult, and that's certainly holding us back in this regard. I would point that out because that's something that's been on my mind the last couple of years is how do I Austin is pretty segregated. And so how do I find the spaces where I could actually cultivate a true friendship with a person of color that I would feel like I'd want to have over and have dinner with them, with me and my husband, for example. I find another couple that would come over and we could actually have conversations where we could get to know each other on a much deeper level than you do just interacting with people at work, for example. My husband's made friendships and at work through their people of color, but that's not the same thing as actually knowing the person deeply. And so it's one of those things that's come up for me as being part of this friendship group here in Austin. There are women of color in the group, but how do I actually reach out to them across the aisle and say to them, I really would like for you to come to my coffee or my lunch that I've set up here or my dinner, because I want to get to know you and not feel, have that person feel that's kind of a just disingenuous invitation. So it's one of those conundrums in my mind that I would love to be able to get feedback from people, especially people of color, to say, how do I do that? Because that's really is my intent. I want to make some friends of color and I want to be genuine about it. So,
Okay.
Anyway.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you very much. We have Bill. It's 10:54 double time. We have Bill, Nora, Rebecca, Cindy, Phyllis, Greer. Anyone else? Pedro and Jean. Okay. You may be closing off after that. Bill.
I've been jotting down lots of points. I'll try to do them in a somewhat organized way. First of all, what Lynn said about Rice, Paul Tulane's will, he left his money for the education of white Christian men. And needless to say, that will has been broken on all three accounts. But that was the thing. Jim Crow, maybe all of you know this, but there was a direct connection after the Civil War. The low-income Blacks and whites realized they had something in common. They were both being oppressed by the upper class. And I think the upper class, maybe they read Dr. King's statement that Lynn pasted. So they wanted to separate. Jim Crow was originally created, I've read, to separate the low-income Blacks and whites so they wouldn't organize against the oppressors. They wanted to keep them separate. And so that was the origins of that. I've been in a number of situations, and Cindy and I have been in a number of situations, the reverse of what Beatrice said, where we were the only white people there. And I felt very comfortable, but I was also aware that I was the only white person there. And I have found that those situations, people of color, African Americans, are very friendly, very outgoing. Many of them made us or me feel comfortable in the situation, which I was grateful. I find that African Americans 50 and over are the friendliest people in New Orleans, friendlier than whites of the same age. And when we first started doing political canvassing.
Well, Bill, your 2 minutes is up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. You can finish in the wrap up, okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you. We have Nora next.
Okay. So I guess that I try and acknowledge that my racial anxiety is not similar to the racial anxiety of a person of color. I come from a place more of safety and privilege, and maybe feel more comfortable addressing racial anxiety. And a person of color might bring a whole lot more baggage as far as classism and racism and trust, and maybe just a lot less enthusiastic about interacting. I too belong to another group, and it's an international co-counseling organization, and one of the subgroups is called Ending White Racism. And one of the first times I participated, we addressed who we are as white people, and are we the people that a person of color would even want to interact with? and look at how white people treat each other, and is that something that we want to engage with? So just lots of dynamics, lots to think about. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Nora. Rebecca?
So can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. So I'm a partner. My partner is a person of color and African American. So I think a lot, about this because our partnership has really brought him into a white community. And I'm hoping that, he has enough ties in the Black community so he won't get tired of the white community, because it is true that in certain situations, people are exceedingly rude to him. I suppose that there are a couple of situations that really stand out, but in our town, people are very friendly, both in terms of coming to the house and enjoying an hour or two with us, and on the street, people are very friendly. And I don't think we've had a bad happening in the town, but in certain groups in Boston, people have been really exceedingly rude. And, I think that's very hard, but he tolerates it very well, perhaps because he's experienced it before. We were both in college together, and the college was very white. So he experienced it there. But the social hostility is incredible when it occurs. It's terrible. And we did have the opportunity to go to Bermuda together to a wedding. The wonderful thing about Bermuda is that it seems to be half colored and half white. Maybe that's not exactly true. So that when on the dance floor, it's a mixture of people. That was really fun. And it turned out that the parents of the groom also had interracial experiences. So it was a very friendly atmosphere in a family wedding. That was really nice. But we can't go live in Bermuda, so we have to live here. And I am concerned about the really negative experiences that occur from time to time, and are very aware of them.
Thank you. Okay, your 2 minutes is up, but thank you. Okay, you can finish in the wrap up. We have Cindy, Phyllis, Greer, Pedro, and Jean, and we're gonna close the list because it's 11 o'clock and there's a lot of people to go through. Okay, Cindy.
It seems like the biggest impediment to comfort is lack of contact. And if you have no groups like this, where you talk back and forth about issues, how are you going to get to know someone? In the grocery store, you may pass any number of nationalities, but you don't talk with them about anything important. Maybe if you're a member of a church, maybe there's some discussions there. But I think, unfortunately, most of our churches are still pretty segregated. I mean, I don't think it's deliberately, but they're mostly white or mostly Black. So to promote the contact, I'd love to see more groups. I mean, I don't know where I would go besides Erace and besides working in the public schools for cross-racial contact. I'd love any ideas you have.
Okay, thank you, Cindy. Next we have Phyllis.
Well, I just wanted to respond to what Cheryl said earlier, that I can testify that it is possible to say something stupid and shitty and survive and learn. And so that once you've done that a couple times, you can, your anxiety will start to dissipate a little bit. I swear I have. So that's all I'll say for right now. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Phyllis. Greer.
I finally got in.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm just going to approach this from the aspect of mainly African Americans and white people in this country. We've been together for over 400 years. And you mean to tell me you don't know us? And the reason why you don't is because of the power dynamics of the relationship that we've had that's transitioned over the years. We, besides us, probably the American Indians could be said, the Native Americans, the same thing could be said for them. But I notice when anybody comes to the country, or they let in, or they were already here and they've been embraced in whiteness, they pick up that same mantle with that power or dynamics with us. And when you have an agenda against the people, how they live, how they move, how they get educated, and their health care in this country is being substandard, and how they're maltreated, and mainly everybody who's not them is on board with this, then that's a big reason why we don't know each other. Because at the end of the day, I'm gonna say it, a lot of people don't want to get to know us because they have a set mind frame of what they think we are, who they think we are. They don't take an account of our position in this country and what we've been through and what's sanctioned against us. And also, I want to say this, I saw a documentary they had busing in England. I think it was like in the 60s when there was a lot of mass migration of people from the Caribbean and Africa into England. It's called Subhuman. These kids were bused to different schools. And what happened was a lot of them went to school for people with developmental disabilities when they didn't have any. Because the white parents felt that there was an issue with having all these Black kids, that it would slow their kids down. So you guys need to check that out. It's on Amazon Prime. It's called Subhuman. That's it.
Thank you, Greer. Next we have, where's this echo coming from? Okay, next we have Pedro and then Jean, and then we can go to the wrap up. Pedro.
Yeah, hopefully this is not too disjointed, but the lack of racial interactions is just one of a number of byproducts of systemic racism that Greer referred to. I was interested in the concept of racial anxiety versus weathering, which I'll get to in a second. But the backdrop of all this is this, these gross differences between wealth inequality, and the life expectancy now in the United States started declining in 2016 for the first time since the HIV crisis in 1993. And the wealth thing, in February of 2016, the Brookings Institute analyzed life expectancies for men among the top 10% earners versus those in the bottom 10%. And there was like a 14-year difference. Okay. And so the concept, the article indicates how segregated our social circles are, and they remain today. And that whites are victims of racial anxiety as well. However, the degree of harm as a white person is marginal compared to African Americans due to this weathering phenomenon. And real quickly, that's what I wanted to kind of get to, was the weathering hypothesis states that chronic exposure to social and economic disadvantage leads to accelerated decline in physical health outcomes and could partially explain racial disparities in a wide array of health conditions. This systemic review summarizes the literature that empirically tests this weathering hypothesis. So I guess it's just kind of a luxury for me as a white person to have these discussions and feel like I'm doing something that I don't have to feel guilty about the condition of African Americans. But that's what systemic racism has, and that's what needs to be dismantled. So how do we do that? Thank you.
Thank you, Pedro. Jean.
Well, I had two comments, one of which is, how do you make friends with Black women? One of my friends is a librarian. Another one was a neighbor 40 years ago. She's still my friend. Another one is, she and her husband were jazz. They used to have jazz jams. And so while he died, she and I are still friends. You can make friends everywhere. The other point is the person that suffered the most in my family is my son, who is, he's identifiable as African American. And the white people who, the police, one thing, he's been stopped several times and almost disrobed once when it was the white kids who were stealing the bus transfers, not the Black kids. Asked a white woman, "Oh, do you have the time?" "No, I don't have," you cover up your watch so that oh, no, I don't have a watch. Things like that. A friend, I used to talk about these things at work, which was all white at that point, almost all white. And as a result, one Black man was at a Metro and he was looking for change for a $20 bill. And the woman who was the white woman in the office, she did what everybody else did. "Oh, I'm sorry." And then she stopped and she went back and she said, "Oh, what do you need? I don't have change. What do you need?" And she gave him what he needed, a $5 bill. And he said, "Do you come by here the same time every day?" And she said, "Yes, but don't worry about it." He was there the next day and gave her the $5 bill. Part of that is because I would talk about what my son was going through. And sometimes some white people listen. Anyway, everybody have a happy holiday. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Okay, we're gonna start the wrap up. Everyone gets a minute to make their final statements with the exception of two people, Marva and Glenn, okay, because they didn't say anything amazingly throughout the discussion. And so they get the full 2 minutes. So I'll start with Marva.
Great article, Nancy. I felt my stuttering would impede me, and so it has increased this morning. But I enjoyed listening at you all. Great great notes that you all expressed, and I gained a lot of insights from your discussion.
All right.
Thanks. Happy
Thank you.
holidays.
Happy holidays, Marva. Okay, Glenn.
Yeah, as what that guy used to say, it's unusual. Yeah, this is unusual for me not to say anything. But I really was enjoying the frankness of the white people on here with what they spoke, and so I was, you know, I was. It was a good thing I didn't come in and say anything and derail what they was going to say. But I don't think it's going to be any problem in the future because everybody's going to be forced to work together. The world ain't got too small for us to find some little gated community. You know, African Americans are everywhere, Hispanics are everywhere. You know, the separation is just by the numbers going to make it impossible to be separated. And the different jobs that we have, we're going to have to intermingle with one another. We're going to have to work with one another. It just the world ain't got too small for separation. That's all I have to say.
Well, thank you, Glenn. Okay, we're going to go on to the regular wrap up and we will start with Phyllis.
Well, I just really appreciated all of the conversation and the ideas and the experiences that were shared and the concerns. And I think as a white person, there's always room for me to do better than I'm currently doing. And I appreciate being reminded of that by some of the stories that were shared here. And happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Thank you. Lynn.
With an L?
Lynn with an L, yes.
Thank you, everyone. The best interracial experience I had in Houston was the time the Girl Scouts met together in one giant jamboree, and it was so much fun. I think we all knew what we had been missing all those sad separated years. And thank you, everyone, for your comments. I wish you a wonderful Christmas and opportunity to make more friends. And I will say that while you can't go deeply in a New Orleans grocery store in terms of conversation, you can surely have fun while you're waiting to check out. People are so willing to talk to you and be open with you, or standing on the street waiting for a Mardi Gras parade. This is a talking town and people are open, and I just love it.
Okay.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, Lynn. Jean.
Well, I've appreciated the dialogue and Beatrice, if I'd been at that party, I would have come over and hung with you all during the evening. And that's how I've gotten some women friends from my later life in a white accounting firm. And two of the women are my lifelong friends. And it's just the interaction wherever you can find it or see it. And thank you for everybody's comments. And Glenn, you're right. People can't avoid it much longer because African Americans, Latinos, Middle Eastern people, they're everywhere, and we're going to be forced to face it. So thank you, everybody. Have a happy holiday and best wishes for 2022. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Jean. Nora.
So I just want to wish everybody a wonderful holiday and hope you survive personal anxiety, family anxiety, wealth disparity in your own family, and hope everybody has a good time together. That's all.
Thank you, Nora. Pedro.
Yeah, just what a blessing to listen to everybody's comments every week. I tend to get kind of too analytical. So I want to take advantage of the rest of my minute to get analytical again. I just wanted to encourage the exploration of weatherizing by, her name is Geronimus, Dr. Geronimus, Arlene Geronimus. And it posits, and she shows that Blacks experience early health deterioration as a consequence of the cumulative impact of repeated experiences with social or economic adversity and political marginalization. And really the impact of feeling and experiencing the dehumanizing vibes of prejudice and discrimination. It just takes a toll, those microaggressions. And, you know, I apologize that that's what the world is, but that's what it is. Happy holidays. Thank you.
Happy holidays, Pedro. Rebecca.
Yes. Well, I think that as we increase our integration, which I hope Glenn is right about, that also we may have more bad experiences. And I think that having our churches be sort of culturally inclined is a place where people can go and feel themselves and perhaps relax a little bit. So I think segregated churches or churches organized by culture may be a very good thing. That's all. And happy holidays to everybody. And thanks for this discussion. It's wonderful. Bye.
Thank you, Rebecca. Have a great holiday. Cheryl.
I was going to try to speak again, but here we go. I'm going to try to do it really fast. All anxieties must be faced. It's the only way to get over them. And it's really up to us. I really appreciate Greer for sobering us up and for Pedro for sobering us up. Really important to do. And I just wanted to say to Michelle, and I'm sure we could even have an article on this, how to be friends, is to really make sure that you're asking them to a neutral space so that something that like happened to Beatrice doesn't happen. That you maybe ask the new friends that you meet in this group, like where they like to go to lunch, or pick some place that's really diverse and go have fun. And I wish you all very happy holiday and thank you for everything. And as I said, it's up to us. It's not about feeling good because we meet here. It's about taking this great energy and smiling and looking in the eyes of all the great people we get to see in our weeks. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, Cheryl. Bill.
Great article, and it required us to look inward, especially the white people, but not exclusively. And I realized that the same approach to people of color has been helpful to me when I go to foreign countries. People say the French are arrogant, but I find that if you approach them with humility, they're extremely friendly. And so that's been my thing. I want to second what Lynn said. I go to Osner a lot, unfortunately, and the majority of nurses are African-American, but not exclusively. But I find the Black nurses much easier to joke around with and be friendly with and open with. And I try to do that just as an example of being open. And in terms of Beatrice's comment, I would have made a beeline to her because I generally tend to find African-Americans much more interesting than old white people. So I would have been there at your side too. Thank you. Have a great holidays.
Thank you, Bill. You have a great holiday as well. Cindy. Unmute.
I couldn't remember if I had a turn, but it's because I spoke right before the end. Anyway, this has been a good discussion. I seriously am interested in finding more venues where there's a mixed group. Like I don't hang out in bars. I don't really hang out in coffee shops. I could, but they're pretty limited in their mixture. Age mixture, and that's interesting too. But around where I live, who's there are mostly young students or young people, professionals. I need more ideas, and I would welcome any of your input about good places to go. to cross those lines. I wish there were a sort of an international house in New Orleans, coffee shop where you could just go and sit around and talk. If you know of one, let me know. Enjoy your holidays. It's the first time I'm not going somewhere for Christmas in many, many years. So it's kind of neat to be here. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Cindy, and you have a great holiday as well.
Looking forward to it.
Michelle.
Yeah, it's a nice discussion. Thank you everybody for whose input on my question here and there. And yeah, I don't really have anything else to say other than Happy New Year to everybody. And I count you all as my friends, even though we are miles apart, many of you. And I would love to be able to get together in person, so that we could enjoy a meal and in each other's company. So I am circling my wagon, so to speak, and putting together my tribe of people because I'm feeling a little bit more doomsday-ish each day with our current situation, and so it's going to be an interesting year. I will say, to say the least. So be on your toes, everybody. Keep paying attention. I will say that as well, because you may need to find the people that agree with you and think like you in the coming months, and we need to know who each other are.
Okay. Thank you, Michelle. Have a great holiday. Louise.
So, Michelle, we need to take a trip to New Orleans and go hook up with all of these lovely people that we see every week. This was a great conversation. Really good. Really enjoyed it. And darn it, I was going to say something. I can't remember what it was now. I got sidetracked by the visit to New Orleans. Oh, New Orleans, of course. That's why I fell in love with the city. The people made it for me. And as I think it was Lynn saying it in a grocery store, at first coming from London, hustle bustle, it's just like buy my groceries, let's go. But people would talk to you, and literally 5 minutes later, the lady or gentleman that was doing the groceries as well, would just be talking about stuff, and it's just like, wow, I've been here 6 minutes just getting my, you know what I mean? The conversations, random conversations, and when they say, how are you doing? How are you? They actually mean it. They want to know how you're doing. It's not just a polite saying. So yeah, the people of New Orleans made me feel like it was home. I've been away from home too long, unfortunately, and I love to get a little bit of it each week from y'all. Anywho, have a great holiday.
Thank you, Louise. You have a great holiday as well. Marla?
Yep, nothing really to add, just immense gratitude for the discussion and everybody's friendship as well. So happy New Year, happy holidays to all.
Okay, thank you. Beatrice.
Thanks so much for the conversation, and Jean and Bill for your promise that you would have been there for me. If you will indulge me, I have a poem that I wrote when I put a booklet together, 12 Poems of Christmas, and I'd like to share it if I may. It's called A Dove's Eye View of Christmas. What means this Christmas you all love so well? Is it sacred or secular? Indeed, I can't tell. I've heard of your Santa, Kris Kringle, Saint Nick. I've watched as you've scurried through stores as you pick out treasures whose ultimate value I doubt. But what means your Christmas? I'd like to find out. I've heard as you've sung of good news and good cheer, but seldom those feelings extend through your year. You carol of peace, love, and joy, but violence and greed your spirits annoy. What means your Christmas? I'd like to find out. Do you remember what the season's about? This means our Christmas. An angel, a maid, a journey to Bethlehem, a stable, a babe, 3 long-distance travelers who followed one star, a message from heaven that says that you are blessed if you forever walk in God's light. Now run tell your neighbors a Savior was born this night.
Well, thank you. Very good. Yay.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you so much, Beatrice. Have a great holiday.
Same to all of
Okay.
you.
And lastly, Greer. Greer.
Beatrice,
Unmute.
can you share that in the chat? Would you mind copying and paste? That was beautiful, man.
I don't know what's going on with my Zoom, but it's acting funny. Well, what I have to say is ignorance can be used as a weapon. And some of the greatest atrocities in the world have been done in ignorance. Because it's so much easier to do something to somebody you don't know than it is to somebody that you know. You don't have the repercussions or consequences or the psychological damage or having to deal with the after effects when you don't see somebody as a human being, a person with a soul. That's it, and happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays, Greer. Okay. Well, thank you all for coming, and we finished just about on time. I have not much to say. In addition, I do really want to thank Jean for sharing her experiences with her son. I have a grandson, as some of you all know, who is biracial and whatnot, and some of the I try to do everything that I can to acknowledge, both sides of his racial identity. And so I found some websites, Mixed and Happy, Mixed Nation, different things. We love Patrick Mahomes, role models for him to, look up to and follow and so forth. But, it's sometimes it is difficult for him being a mixed race person. They face very specific challenges. I'll put it like that. Very specific challenges and whatnot. So yes, I do everything that I can to, bolster him up and find role models and different things for him to aspire to. But anyway, thank you all for coming. Maybe we can do this again because this really covers a very broad area. Very broad area, okay? And the challenges for white people is very different than the challenges for Black people when it comes to racial anxiety. So maybe we can branch out a little bit because there were several articles that I could have chosen from, and maybe I'll bring another one so we can expand this conversation even further. Okay, are there any announcements?